What's going on, folks? You know who I be, Mr. TOP_FLYT3, and welcome to this week 1 edition of IG5OY, aka I Got 5 on it. And your Los Angeles Chargers are 1-0 after a second half throttling of the hated, the dreaded, the misinformed, the misled, the delusional. I almost called them the Oakland Raiders. These cats have relocated so often, I'm having a hard time keeping up. The Las Vegas Raiders. And that fan base, who all offseason have had their heads held high about, what was it, a 69-21 win over the Chargers, who trotted out Easton Stick, were missing a bunch of other starters, and had basically given up on their head coach, or a guy who was cosplaying as one. But whatever, we'll get into the details here shortly. But again, thank you for joining me here, and without further ado, let's get the proceedings proceeding this evening. Hey yo, far be it from me to be disrespectful and not start this thing off the way that it needs to be. And that's with talking about the return of the Don, Jim Harbaugh, who is apparently 5-0 in opening day games. I didn't know that was a thing, but let's keep the party going. If you aren't overly familiar with the Jim Harbaugh style of football, specifically on the offensive side, it's not for the faint of heart. So if you don't love a lot of what you saw yesterday, you're going to have to get over it. Hopefully you like wins, though, because he will produce that. And you're going to have these knockdown, drag-out games, and a lot of times you'll see them just really give it to the opposition on the defensive side of the ball with their running game in the third and fourth quarter. And all those deposits and body shots that they made throughout the game will start to take effect, just like yesterday. And very often you'll see them lining up in victory formations to end games. And that's not something you're accustomed to with Chargers teams to end games. We've all been around long enough to know that typically these matchups end with heart palpitations. And that's not what we experienced yesterday. For those of you folks out there wondering when you're going to get your 350 to 400 yard passing game from Justin Herbert, you might get a couple, maybe, but I wouldn't hold my breath on them. They'll be few and far in between because that's not what this offense is going to be about. The bread and butter will be the running game, and Herbert will be able to take some shots deep. They'll build off of play action, and you'll probably see some deep crosses from guys like Ladd McConkey, and you'll be able to get a little bit more vertical once DJ Chark is back from injury, whenever that is. But for the time being, you better love this ground and pound, this intermediate passing game, and Justin Herbert being asked to make, a handful of tough throws throughout the game to keep the drives going and moving along. So at the end of the day, I don't think Herbert has a problem with the way this offense looks right now. There may be some questions about the wide receiving core in general, but I think they'll start to work through them as the games go on. And again, as the running game proves to be more effective, wide receivers are going to start producing much more. You saw a team that was really buttoned up there in the second half, more so than in the first. Man, those 3 early penalties by Will Dissly were wild. He accounted for those 4 penalties in the first half, 3 of them. I forget who had the 4th. But when the second half rolled around, at halftime, before the second half got going, I'm sure he went in and laid into those guys with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. And you saw the results. They came out and it looked like a different team. In the first half, it was definitely not fun to watch. I mean, you had 6 points off of 2 Cameron Dicker field goals, only 2 first downs, and they were 0 for 7 on third down. But look, again, if you like dubs, which I believe we all do, then you'll take it. And if you don't like it, it's all good, because your boy absolutely loves it, and I'll do it all day, every day, because this is exactly my style of football. As an old school cat, nothing like it. So I'm down. I'm going to go ahead and assume that I'm safe in speaking for many of us in saying that watching JK almost all day go for a $135 on 10 carries was really a treat. You're talking about a dude who had what from many would have been 2 career-ending injuries. And I know what a lot of y'all are out there saying. When he got into the open field, it looked like he lost his explosiveness, but I don't believe that at all. The explosiveness is there because that's the initial part of the run. What he's lacking right now is endurance. over a longer run period. So you see him in those first 15 to 20 yards really create some distance on guys and really accelerate. But once he hits 25, 30 and beyond, he really didn't have anything left in him. And that's going to come with football, more play, more game experience. It's really hard to simulate that, especially during the offseason when you're not playing these longer games and his legs have to get back under him. You have to keep in mind, man, these were major injuries this dude suffered through, and he pushed his way back, and as long as he can stay healthy, the Chargers may have a steal. We'll see what goes on with Gus Edwards as that 1-2 backfield punch continues moving forward. But right now, if JK can stay healthy, the Chargers have a guy. And the running style is beautiful, man. He's got great vision. I love his ability to create. The jump cuts were there. And like I said before, the endurance on those longer runs is going to come, even though J.K. Dobbins has never been the greatest long speed guy. He's just got that awesome initial burst, but to be able to maintain his top speed over longer runs is what we're going to be looking forward to. And I'm thinking he's going to work his way to it again. He just has to stay on the field, and I have confidence that he'll do that. But yesterday was a great start to it, so let's see what's to come after this. Oh, look, I think we might have a defensive play calling Jesse. Mentor, that is. Yeah, I know it was corny, but whatever. Go with me. The Raiders had the lowest EPA per play of any team in week 1 in the league. And the Chargers defense was the reason for that. Think about that for a second, because I'm still having a hard time processing it. The same team who just a year ago and for the last few years has been one of the most historically destitute, terrible defenses in all of the NFL, and in just one offseason basically flipped it on its head. Now it's just 1 week, but still, this is a drastic turnaround. You've got different guys on the interior, so of course there are some new names. Specifically, I'm talking about Poona Ford and Otito Ogbonnia, who played out of their minds on the interior. Otito had a play, and look, I'm gonna give props to Otito because we give him a lot of criticism, and it's been warranted, so I want to give him his flowers also. There was one rep where he made a play. I don't remember if it was in the A or B gap, but he was taking on a block. While he was fighting off that block with his left hand, extended his right arm out and essentially made a play on the back solo with one arm. Never seen that level of play from Tito. And Poona Ford, well, what else can we say? Poona's always been one of my favorite interior defensive linemen, but he may be resurrecting his career here with the Chargers, and no one is happier about it than me because, yeah, dude's a tree stump, but he's all effort, and the technique is also improving overall, which has always kind of been a thing with Poona. Technique-wise, he hasn't been at the top of his game, but you see the overall growth there, and the Chargers are going to be better on the defensive side of the ball for it. Teair Tart only played a handful of snaps, which was a little weird to me. But look, I'm not complaining. If you're telling me these guys are going to perform to this level, and the names that you aren't necessarily expecting to be the ones making these plays are still doing it, why would you be upset about it? It just means you have more quality depth, more guys with the ability to step in and make it happen. And honestly, Mentor didn't dial up anything too crazy. Guys were just executing. This defense actually scared the Raiders into a punt on 4th and 1 in plus territory, basically on the backs of a couple short yardage situations and stops they made in the first half. So again, another example of early deposits yielding late returns. And if they keep this up, not just on the interior, because the second level guys and the secondary played pretty well. We're talking about Davante Adams being the second leading receiver for the Raiders off of 5 receptions for 59 yards. Now, in years past, we know exactly how this game would have gone, and Asante Samuel Jr. would still be looking at the back of Davante Adams' jersey in most instances, but that's not the case this year. This time around, this team understands what it is to game plan, or should I say Mentor understands what it means to game plan, to take the team's best weapon out. So let's just see how this develops over the coming weeks, but if this game was any indication of what this defense is going to look like for the remainder of the season, oh man, I have still yet to check this flick out, but I've heard good things about it. Feels like this is the appropriate time to use the title though, because Joey Bosa unlocked Cocaine Bear against the Raiders. There's one play in particular that I want to call out, but he had a bunch of them, but just one. If you're a coach out there and you want to show your team the type of effort you expect them to give, quality, high level effort, remember the play where Gardner Minshew was third down, coverage is pretty good, the Red Sea parts, he extends the play and takes off running, and there's literally nothing to stop him from getting this first down. Looks like he's going to do it until you see 97 lay out Superman style and get the shoestring tackle, forcing the Raiders to have to punt the ball. I would venture to say that I've not seen this version of Joey Bosa. I'm going to go back farther than the NFL, since Ohio State, because at OSU, Joey Bosa was everywhere, just like he was on Sunday. We're talking about setting a mean edge, getting after the quarterback, but also these hustle plays, because then you have to take into account the peanut punch that he made to force a fumble on a chunk run play. He was everywhere. And look, it's another guy that we are highly critical of, because I'm sure just like many of you all are out there, when he broke his hand during that joint practice with the Rams, we all just figured, oh, here we go again. Dude cannot stay healthy. He can't stay on the field. But I tell you what, even if he is nicked up here and there, there's something about, and this could be a reach, but whatever. It feels to me like Joey has a point to prove, and it's not just to all the people out there, all the fans, all the naysayers, everyone who's lobbying all these critiques against him. To me, it's to Jim Harbaugh, because that's a real football guy. That guy knows what it means to win. He can identify a real football player, and he understands the heart of a true warrior and football player. And I think Joey feels like he has to prove himself to Jim. And if he plays with that type of motivation all season long, look out. Again, health notwithstanding, but let's be honest. This version of Joey Bosa, if the Chargers can get for 85-90% of the season, will be borderline defensive player of the year type candidate. I want to give a shout out to the rookies, man, two in particular, Joe Alt and Ladd McConkey, because rookie wear. Specifically talking about Joe Alt here. We all knew this was going to be a trial by fire matchup against one of, hell, some consider him the best. If he's not the best, he's absolutely 2 or 3 edge rusher in the entire league in Max Crosby. And by my count, in 8 1-on-1s, I saw Max get one pressure off on Joe Alt. Some places have him going 8-0 against Crosby, but there was one rep where I feel like Crosby got a little bit of leverage on him, straight armed him back into the pocket just a little bit. It was enough to affect Herbert's process and speed the play up just a smidge, but I'm not going to complain about that. In your first outing as a professional, you basically neutralize one of the best in the entire NFL. And I did not expect that. We were all, for the most part, very critical of that first round pick, but understanding what a Jim Harbaugh team is, you know that he, and he said it himself, sees offensive linemen as weapons. And yeah, I would say that having a guy out there that's 6'9", able to be that nimble and keep your quarterback clean, and then, complement the cat on the left side and Rashawn Slater, I guess you could call that a weapon. If you can keep your quarterback clean and allow him to make plays, and also always pretty good in the run game as well, then it's just a different type. And there were instances where Crosby was shifting to the opposite side, not to go against Slater, but mainly, last year the Chargers were kind of exposed against twists and stunts on Zion Johnson's side, and it was happening a little bit again in this game. Zion has a tendency to overplay those twists and stunts, and he steps a little bit too far to the left, creating these open holes for guys to shoot through the gaps and get to the quarterback. They kind of worked their way through it in the second half, but I think the Raiders were trying to exploit it early on. And can we talk about Ladd McConkey getting his first touchdown, making defenders do the boot scoop boogie on his way into the end zone? It was sweet. But more than that, what is Ladd, like 175 soaking wet? Dude blocks his behind off. There's no excuse for any other wide receiver not to give that type of effort. Ladd doesn't just give the effort. He's effective in doing so. He, on that J.K. Dobbins touchdown, was essentially responsible for keeping the safety out of the play. Safety wasn't able to get downhill to stop JK. I mean, JK probably would have lowered the shoulder and got to the end zone, but he didn't have to because Ladd was in there getting busy in the end zone. And for someone of his size, his stature, to be that effective as a blocker in the run game, two things. That's a different level of heart and effort that you have to have as a football player. But also, the coaches are going to recognize that and they're going to reward you. Ladd's going to put up really nice receiving performances, and they're going to come off the back of coaches recognizing the type of effort he's putting in the other phase of the game. Because as a wide receiver, you can't just be out there expecting to get the ball every play and only want to do that. It's going to boil down to the plays that you're out there making and contributing to when you don't get your hands on the ball. And it's a different type of player that it takes to give the level of effort that Ladd McConkey is giving in the run game. So like I said before, I ain't cutting anybody any slack. Doesn't matter what your name is. If that cat is out there doing that, then so can you. And you better be effective. And if you haven't figured out, maybe you can ask him for some advice. But that is going to be it for me, folks. I appreciate you for tapping in with me. I'm going to go back and give this game a couple more watches because I'm looking for some stuff that I didn't pick up on the live watch, and I'm sure there will be more. And I just can't wait to see it again because, as I mentioned previously, this is my style of football. And although it may not be the most aesthetically pleasing to some, this is my jam. And if it yields wins, then why should it matter? But be on the lookout for the rest of the week from the walkthrough with Jamie and another episode of Score More with Garrett. And if you don't see us before, because you might, maybe, see you on Sunday for this matchup against the Panthers. We'll be doing after hours post game as usual. Looking forward to that. And if this game against the Saints was any indication, there might be a few more fireworks on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that as well. But again, I appreciate y'all. Y'all know what it is. It's your boy. Catch you on the next one. And I am gone.